Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be creating a card using the new release Fence and Daisies stamp from Blue Knight Rubber Stamps. You've got this beautiful fence with some daisies, and the sentiment says, "I was just counting my blessings and thought you should know you are one of them." I'm going to go ahead and stamp this on some watercolor paper and start coloring the daisies. So I'm coloring the yellow centers of the daisies right now. I just have some colored pencils to do this. You can use anything that you would like for coloring, whether it be colored pencils or alcohol ink markers. So for the fence itself, I'm using Derwent Inktense watercolor pencils. I like these watercolor pencils because they remind you of basically a watercolor or a colored pencil, but then when you add water, the ink becomes very intense, and I guess that's why they call it Inktense watercolor pencils. And when you color with these, it is permanent. So unlike regular watercolor pencils, if you keep adding water, the watercolor basically fades out the color. These pencils are a little bit different. When you add water, the color becomes more intense, which I think is really cool. And I really am glad for that, because I want this fence to really pop. And, you can color your fence light brown or gray. I'm using browns, and I just grabbed a bunch of different brown pencils to do this. I have a watercolor pen, which is just water in a brush form. And I don't even need to squeeze it really hard. Just a little bit of water that's coming through is activating the Inktense watercolor pencils. Again, these are called Derwent Inktense watercolor pencils, and they're actually made in the UK. And they stay permanent when they dry, which is different than, I think, other watercolor pencils. Like I said, they wash out after you would reactivate them. So if you would watercolor with a regular watercolor pencil and then it dries, then you go back in, when you add the water, it kind of washes it out. But these will stay permanent when they dry. And you can layer them, and that's going to continue to make your colors to become more intense. You can apply them wet or dry, and they're like ink. The pigments come alive when water is added. You can apply it with a dry pencil and then add a little bit of wet, and it leaves an ink-like stain. Again, the Inktense becomes more intense as you layer. And you can apply this watercolor pencil to ceramic, wood, and fabric, as well as paper. So I did not know much about these Derwent Inktense pencils. Now, I basically, these were my sister's, and she passed away, unfortunately, back in 2017 when she was only 47. And they were in her stash. And I remember when she passed, my brother-in-law didn't want any of her stuff. He basically made us clean her house out like the day that she passed. It was very traumatic. I never seen anybody want to get rid of things so much. And my dad did not want all my sister's art supplies at his house, and neither did my mom. And I said, well, I'll take them, because I said, I I don't have the heart to just chuck them or just put them out at a yard sale for $1 a piece. And so we did sell some things because my sister was really big into painting, and that it wasn't something that I did. Anyways, it took me a while to understand all of these art products that were hers, and Chris was just starting to make cards. Anyways, I would watch YouTube videos when I first started making cards, and I stumbled across a video of some YouTuber that does watercoloring, like I'm talking beautiful watercolor coloring, like coloring pages. And she did a video on how to use these Derwent Inktense pencils, and that's when I realized they're a little bit different than a regular watercolor pencil. And boy, am I glad I held on to them, because they're my go-to. And I also like the Tim Holtz Distress watercolor pencils. But yeah, these are definitely my favorite. And really all I'm doing right now is just a bunch of different colors of green back and forth to sort of make the green area. And when you get your stamp from Blue Knight, you get it on a cling laminated paper or whatever. Anyways, there's always examples of how to color things in, and you can use that as a starting point. You know, if you're not sure, you can just try to recreate what you see on the artwork from the artist. This fence has lots of areas that you can shade darker than others, and this artwork is so well done. Really, all you need to do is follow the lead of the artist. So where I'm going in and making the grass darker, that was already part of the line art of this beautifully designed, very detailed red rubber stamp. Sorry, my head's getting in the way of the video. I'm trying to get a closer look at where I need to do some more shading. And by shading, I mean just coloring in with this Inktense pencil on this dried surface. This area has pretty much dried, and so I'm going in and adding more, and it's actually making it more dark, like darker. So like I said, I colored the daisies just with a regular colored pencil. The center of the daisies, the yellow part, I colored the little flowers that I felt were at the bottom of the left corner. I colored those in pink. On the artist rendition, it looks more like clovers than flowers, but I just wanted a pop of color down there. And like I said, now I'm just fussing around trying to get my grass to look nice. Yeah. At the end, I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. But I feel like the background is too white. So in a minute, I'm going to bring in the cloud stencil from Blue Knight Rubber Stamps. And I'm going to bring in some ink. And I'm going to create a pink and blue cloud background. So let's go ahead and do that. This video is created for Blue Knight Rubber Stamps. I'm currently serving on their design team. I just started in July of this year. In the past, I had been on their design team as a guest for, some short periods. But I'm going to use some Catherine Pooler ink. The color I'm using is Oh Boy. And when you make your clouds, you don't want to go over top of the artwork. You just want to feather these clouds in lightly to get this look. So I did the blue, and now I'm going to grab some pink, and I'm just very gently adding this color. This is Pucker Up from Catherine Pooler, which is a very intense color. So I'm going in here with a very light hand. And when you do your clouds like this, you can see I'm just, I don't know, to me it's just, you just put the ink down lightly and keep moving your stencil. so that each row of clouds looks a little bit different than the one you did before. And then I'm just going in with some blue ink on the edges just to finish off the way it looks. Anyways, when you do pink and blue together, you get purple. So it's always a beautiful background when you use your cloud stencil and the blue and the pink together. So back to my sister Chris. So it'll be 10 years in March that she's been gone. It feels like just yesterday. But when I use her products, and basically I would never have begun making cards probably if it wasn't for like inheriting all of her stuff. So I feel close to her whenever I'm making my cards. Okay, so I'm also grabbing another new stamp set. This is called Forest Animals, which has fox and 2 bunny rabbits and 2 different bears. And I had off camera stamped the sentiment in the top right hand corner, which says, I was just counting my blessings and thought about you. I was just counting my blessings and thought you should know you are one of them. I think that is such a great sentiment, just to let somebody know you're thinking about them. And then I took a piece of acetate and laid it on top of my panel here, and I'm putting the rabbit, sort of deciding where I want to position the rabbit. We have a lot of bunny rabbits in our yard. This fence reminds me a lot of sort of the country roads where I live. This scene would be one that you would come upon as you're driving through the area that I live in, Western Pennsylvania. So that's my finished panel. I'm really satisfied with how it turned out. I'm going to take a blue colored pencil and just lightly color in the petals of the daisies just to make them pop a little bit. When I'm done with this step, I will then trim this panel down and mat it on a piece of black cardstock, and then adhere it to a A2 card base, white. And I know that, you don't see blue daisies. I mean, I'm sure there's Gerber daisies that are pink and yellow, but I was looking at the artwork on the card stamp storage card that you get when you purchase from Blue Knight Rubber Stamps, and it looked like they put a little bluish on their daisies, and I think that just makes it stand out a little bit. Oh, my scene looks so cute. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I hope you like it. I'm going to show you a still photo of the finished card. Here it is. Isn't that awesome? That is such a beautiful country scene. I also made 2 additional cards using pan pastels. I'm going to go ahead and pause this and tell you a little bit about this one. You can see I used a lot of orange and yellow pan pastels, and then I stamped the fence and I stamped the fox from the Forest Animals Fox stamp set, the same one where I grabbed that little rabbit from. It has 4 different foxes, so I thought this was a nice scene. I used a mask to create the sun in the top left-hand corner, and I used another stamp set for that eagle that you see flying. That stamp set is called Foliage and Eagle. It has 3 different eagles, and I used the smallest eagle. That's a really great stamp set. And then the sort of tree that you see on the right side of this panel that I created, that tree is from Day at the Lake, and I have been using that tree a lot in the cards that I've been creating. And then I just put this on, I matted it on black with black cardstock in the background. So again, this is a way to use your stamps together. Blue Night Rubber Stamps makes a lot of stamps that you can use together. And I didn't have to color any of this. I just used pan pastels. And you could color on top of pan pastels if you wanted to, but I just wanted to go for this look. And then I created a nighttime scene using basically the same stamp sets. I did not use the eagle, and because it's the nighttime, I used blues for my I used my blue pan pastels, my different colors of blue, and I made a moon with a mask instead of a sun. And I used the day and night pan pastels from Blue Night Rubber Stamps, which is a palette that has the pan pastels already put together like as a set, and you can use those to make your backgrounds with various different colors that go together, as well as a colorless blender. And then the orange one that you saw earlier was with the sunrise and sunset set from Blue Night. So if you're not familiar with pan pastels, I'll link a video below in the description box where I show you the pan pastels and how to use them. And I created a different card with those, and I demonstrated how I use the pan pastels. So that's all for my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it and that you liked the cards that I created. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please leave a comment. I love to hear from you. Just tell me how you're doing or what you think about the cards that I created. And if you're not a subscriber, of course, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Have a hopeful day. Bye-bye.